Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Mexpat Dating. Today I'm going to be talking about how I went to no dates in 10 years to approaching women every single day and starting to get regular dates, multiple dates a week, sometimes even 4 or 5 dates a week. This was my biggest frustration and disappointment in life when I started this journey is how little experience and success I had around dating. And it was very frustrating and very depressing. I'm sure some of you guys can relate to this, right? You see that pretty girl and you just, that longing, that wanting to date them so bad, but having no idea how to actually make that happen. Almost like hoping that she just comes up to you and starts a conversation, which, let's be real, unless you're at a nightclub or something like that, or you're very, 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 very good looking, that is quite unlikely. So for me, this was so frustrating. And I got to a point where I was 27 years old and I had not really made much progress in my dating life at all. I kept thinking that, like, okay, I'm going to become successful in this, or I'm going to get really healthy and spiritual and fit, and that was going to attract the women. And I found that that wasn't quite the case. I came to a moment where I realized, okay, the only way I'm going to actually find success in this is if I go out and make it happen, which was a very humbling moment, a very exciting moment too, because it gave me a little bit of hope. Like, I still was pretty doubtful about the process. Like, okay, like, I'm going to go do this pickup stuff. Like, what? Like, I really don't have any other options. Dating apps were not successful for me. I just didn't have good photos. I didn't understand how to properly text a girl when you get a match or whatever. So I really wasn't doing very well on those. And I just remember, though, the pain of not having a successful dating life or a dating life at all was so strong. I was like, I'm willing to do anything. Like, even if it doesn't work, I'm willing just to try something to at least know then it doesn't work. And then I can be like, okay, right, it didn't work. I guess I'm not meant to date, yada, yada. I had a lot of blocks that were there too. I grew up Catholic. I grew up in a very small town. Being Asian, I definitely had some insecurities around that and thinking that women weren't into me because of my race. Location wise, I also was in a very difficult location. I was in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin specifically. So it's a college town. It's very progressive, a lot of families. So I was in that transition stage because I was 27. So I really didn't fit into any of those categories. And so I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, Joel, like, we got some work to do. We got to figure this out, because it sucked. It sucked being lonely. It sucked watching years go by and just not having relationships, never having sex, no hookups, nothing like that. And just seeing people around campus and around the town, like in relationships, people that I knew that were dating. And I just couldn't, not even like comprehend how they were doing it. Man, I'm just thinking back on the emotion, and it was so sad. Like, I felt so sad, and so fearful as well. So fearful that this is not going to be something that I would get to experience in this lifetime, is dating and the dating experience and the journey. So what I started to do is get out there and do cold approach. As you guys see on this channel, that's what I talk about mostly, and that's what I teach, is how to do cold approach. And it's something that I found a ton of joy in. It's something that's changed my life so much, immensely, in all areas too, not just dating, but with business, with friendships, with just my confidence in the day-to-day world, not being afraid of people anymore. I had a lot of social anxiety for most of my life. And I really wanted deep connections with people, but I was so afraid to go up and talk to them or look stupid or say something dumb, right? And cold approach, let me tell you, that teaches you how to do all that at a very extreme level. And so it really desensitizes you to rejection, I think, is the main kind of key of doing cold approach, and why many of you start doing it as well or have done it in the past, because you're tired of that fear of rejection, of seeing that girl and being like, what if she just doesn't like me, right? Once you start facing it and getting out there and doing approaches, you realize, like, hey, a lot of girls are not going to like me, and that's okay. And it doesn't affect me at all. It doesn't affect my self-esteem. It doesn't affect who I am as a person. It doesn't affect my day-to-day life, really. It turns from a fear into like a gratitude, into a blessing, because you realize, like, oh, great. Like, now I don't have to wonder if this girl was for me and I just didn't have the courage, or didn't, or I'll never know, like, because I didn't go up and say hi to her. Now I know 100% where I stand with her, and I can move on and focus my attention to another girl or another relationship. So I remember my first approach, guys, and it was freaking brutal. I'd done a little bit of it in like 2018, like, but I didn't do it seriously. So I did maybe 20 approaches in a span of a few months. And I remember one girl that I approached, I was working with, super hot. And she said yes. She was like really enthusiastic. And then I canceled on her last minute because I forgot I had work or something. And then she never rescheduled. And I was like, dang. Like, so after that, I kind of gave up, to be honest. I was just like, yeah, this isn't for me. Like, let me just go back to working and focusing on myself and all of that stuff, which I think is really important. And you need to balance that with dating. But I think a lot of people, and I imagine some of you guys as well, you've gone too far in the self-improvement. You're like, I'm going to get so self-improved that women are just going to show up on my doorstep. Doesn't happen like that either. So continuing, I remember the first approach I did when I restarted, I guess, technically, when I was 27. And I remember I used to work at Whole Foods, and one of the girls that worked there, she was in produce. So hot, man. Like, just like 100% my type. Like, every day I was like, dang, she's so hot. And I was just like, man, this girl's like kind of like a dream girl. Like, if I had to marry this girl right now, I'd be like, fine. But I never talking to her, right? I never even made eye contact because I was just, again, too nervous. So I remember I went into Whole Foods one night and it was like snowing outside. And I just remember sitting in, like, if you've ever been to Whole Foods, they have like the place where the cafeteria where you can eat. I just remember sitting there for about an hour, just kind of like, just peeking my head out, watching her and seeing like when like a moment would be to like go and say hi. And I was watching like a bunch of Todd V videos and like all these different cold approach videos and like why this, like, you have to do this, and like the first approach is going to be the most important approach you ever do. And I just remember sitting there for about an hour, psyching myself up. Like, and it wasn't more like, you got this. It was like, you have to do this for your like reproductive survival. If you ever want a chance at dating or experiencing relationships or love or sex or anything like that, like, you need to do this. You need to go out and start facing this fear. And so I did. I finally did it after an hour. I approached her from like the side and the back, and she, like, it was, which you don't do. And she had to like turn over, and it was just like, I was just so nervous, and I tried to like be really cool, but like she could tell I was like freaking out. Talk to me like how a mom talks to like a child. I was like, oh my God, bro, like, this is going terrible. However, just keep going with it. And I said, hey, I like would like to go out with you sometime. And she's like, oh, I have a boyfriend, which who knows if it was true or not. Okay, see you around. And I walked away. And I remember just walking away though, and I didn't feel embarrassment. I didn't feel shame. I didn't feel regret. I felt so much happiness and gratitude and just relief that I freaking did it. I was like, holy crap, man. I did it. I finally did it. I finally faced this fear, and now I don't have to worry if she could have been the one. Now I know where I stand. I felt this huge relief. I felt this, it was probably the most accomplished I felt in a very long time, to be honest, just talking to this one girl. And so that night, that was a very pivotal night where I started to realize that this is something that I can do, and this is something that I need to do. And then also that this is something that I really feel good about. Like, it sucked doing it, and it sucked for a while as I was learning approaching and how to go and talk to women just in a day-to-day environment. But the feeling I got every time after was always just that relief, confidence, gratitude, just feeling like I was working towards something in my life, something that I really wanted and that was really important to me. It gives me good feelings thinking back to it, and just how proud I am at myself that I didn't give up, and I kept going, and I kept learning this skill, because today I don't even think about it. It's just part of my life. It's something I do just whenever, like, I don't know, brushing my teeth or whatever. To get there, it took a lot of work, and it took a lot of just resilience, I think. And I know for you guys as well, if you're out there and you're beginning your cold approach journey, or if you've been on it, like, I just want to give you props, because it's a very difficult thing, especially in the beginning. There's a reason why so many people don't do it, because it's scary. It's uncomfortable. It tests you in so many ways that you never believed you would be tested. There's things that came up about myself that I learned about myself that I didn't know. Like, my own ego was just, when you're approaching a girl, like, you're raw and authentic, and it's just you. Like, all you, like, I mean, especially in the beginning, man, like I was like, that's not me. Like, I'm not nervous. I'm not like awkward. Like, I'm cool. I'm confident. All of that got like put to the test as I go up to this pretty girl. And there were many times where I didn't feel cool and confident, and my awkwardness would come through, or my arrogance or ego would start to pop out because I was trying to compensate. And so all those things kind of gave me insight into where I actually stood in the dating market and in the world of this experience. That being said, though, I knew I was onto something, and I knew this was something that I wanted to continue and really get good at. So that was my first cold approach. And I remember doing another one with a girl at Whole Foods like a week later, and then I got really lucky. Okay, so I initially was doing like an approach where I go up to a girl and I would basically try to have a conversation. But I just realized like that skill wasn't developed yet. So I just had to get better at going up to girls in general. I worked at a shoe store. I sold shoes. And so this was a great opportunity to practice as well. I could, be around cute girls trying on running shoes and then try to hit on them, which my boss eventually told me I couldn't do anymore. But when he was gone, I would still do it. It became really fun because anytime a girl came in, I got like, it became more about just trying to make money and sell shoes. I actually got to practice this skill as well and get more comfortable being around females and making eye contact and joking around, right? Learning how not to be super needy or accommodating and kissing their ass basically. And what I started doing is after my shift, I would go walk around the mall a little bit because that's where the store was. That was where the shoe store was. And I started doing just basically going up to girls and saying, hey, what's the time? And this is something I really recommend guys you start doing if you're new into cold approach and you can't go up yet and start making a conversation. Start out very small. Like there's no shame in just being like, hey, where's the bathroom, right? And this is what I started to do. I used to ask these basic questions. And what I found is that I would do this and the girl would like kind of look at me and she'd be like, oh, it's like 3:00. And then just kind of like wait for me to say something. And she didn't look freaked out. She didn't look like annoyed. It was a very pleasant interaction. I was still too afraid at the time. So I would just, hightail it out of there. But I started to realize like, okay, I need to take it to the next step. And that meant, okay, asking one other question. Okay, cool. What are you doing here at the mall? Okay, do you live here? Do you go to school here? Like something like that. And now when I coach people, I actually don't advise asking questions as much. I advise doing assumptions, which is really going to change your game and make it more flirty. So instead of like, oh, do you go to school here? You say, oh, you're a student. Or instead of like, what are you doing here at the mall? You say, you're definitely on a shopping bench today. So starting to make inferences and assumptions and observations about her is really going to help take your cold approach to the next level. But I didn't know that at the time. So I was still just, asking questions, just making little progress here and there every single day. And then finally I went to this girl at a kiosk. She worked at one of those like mini things in the middle, what they are. And I said, okay, what's the time? And she's like, oh, it's 3:00. And I said, okay, thanks. And I just dipped out of there. The next day, she sent me a little note. She actually worked next to the store next to me, and she said, "Oh, it's 1:30, smiley face, phone number, and then her name." And I just went, like, dude, that's so sick! Like, holy crap, it worked. I guess I found my magic power, just asking girls at time. This is amazing. And we actually ended up hooking up, and she was the first girl I actually slept with ever. So shout out to her. She probably never will see this, but yeah, all from just, hey, what's the time? And I got laid. On top of that too, she was also white. She was also like my type physically, like looks wise. And so it was a really cool moment where I realized, wow, this really does work. Like, holy crap. Like this isn't just something they talk about on the internet. Like I'm actually seeing this start to play out in fruition. Now, what I didn't know, which I will say, is that asking for the time is not going to get you laid every single time, but it at least gave me some confidence and made me see that, okay, this is like, we're onto something here. So continued to do cold approaches, ended up going to Poland, which I can make another video on. And that's really when I learned really, really strong cold approach. I was probably at like 400 or 500 approaches at that time total, like that I'd ever done. And I was getting to this place where I was just asking a lot of questions. Again, like I said, it was very interviewee. I would get, a number here or there if the girl was really attracted to me, but I never could really elicit attraction from anybody. And I just could tell there wasn't a great flirty vibe. Flirting was something that I really didn't understand, and it was very hard for me and has been very hard for me to learn. So going to Poland and starting to do a lot more approaches in an environment where it was much more traditional and feminine. And as well, I met a really good buddy, Tim. Shout out to Tim. He and his guys are on Daygame.com. They have a business in Poland. And we became really good friends, and we would go out every day together. And he just showed me really how to do proper approaching, because he had been doing it for a long time. And he would get the hottest girls just like looking up at him like puppy dog eyes, just so engaged and so captivating. And I just went, I want that. I want to learn how to do that. And he taught me. And the first thing he taught me was what I told you earlier in the video, was the assumptions. That was really when I started to get a lot more numbers and starting to build a lot more dates with girls that I was really, really attracted to, just by that little shift too. Nothing else changed. Like I didn't gain any weight. I was still the same size. My haircut was the same. But all I did was start making assumptions and started asking questions. And my vibe started to transition from nice guy to flirting. So that's what we really help guys with and teach guys, is how to take it from that platonic, friendly vibe, which you do need because you need to establish that safety. But you want to have that element of flirting and that kind of dangerous, mysterious vibe to you that a lot of guys that are too in the friendly zone don't reach, just because out of not knowing these kind of basic skills to switch it from friendly to flirty. And the girls appreciate it too. So if you are a nice guy and you want to please a girl, like, you're gonna please her more by being flirty versus being super accommodating and needy and asking her a ton of questions and all that stuff. So 4 years later, we're here today. It's unbelievable to just reflect and make this video and talk about it. And I appreciate you guys listening to my story. One that I never thought I would get to where I am today. I never thought I would have done as many approaches as I've done and gotten to a place where I'm very comfortable doing it. There was a moment where I thought I would never be good at flirting. It was just something like, okay, I'm not going to be a flirter. I have to find a girl that's like just a super, super boring, nice person. And like, this is what she's into. Like, oh, well, like that's my fate, I guess. But through continuing to work at it and getting outside support, getting help, getting a mentor, I was able to transition that and finally get the dating results that I really wanted. You know, everyone who's watching this, you're going to have your own very unique journey as well. You're going to be able to one day tell your story to people if you want, and in a way that's going to be very unique to you. And it's just so cool. And it's just so cool to see how much transformation somebody can have by embracing cold approach, by embracing Daygame and doing the thing that is, I would say, probably the hardest thing to do when learning to attract and date women is cold approach. Going up to them in a grocery store or in a mall or just on the street, right, at the gym, is a very normal, platonic place. It's not normal. You don't see it every day. Maybe back in the day you would see it more, but because of social media and obviously dating apps and stuff, it's not as needed. And I think what I've learned is women really do appreciate it. They really do respect it. A lot of them crave it. They want that traditional kind of dynamic that has been lost through dating apps and all that stuff. And a lot of girls too, like, you'll find, especially you guys that want relationships, you're probably not going to find your dream girl at a bar or a nightclub. You might, and I do want to say that you definitely hear stories of people that meet and marry and have kids and stuff from meeting at a bar. I think my parents actually met at a bar too. But I think the top quality women, the women that are the most sound and sane and don't have drama in their life and are peaceful, maybe that's not what you like, but for those that do, and that's what I look for as well, those are going to be girls that are just living a normal life, that are out and about, just doing their thing. And it creates such a magical story too, because it's like, like when you think about it, like, what is going to sound more attractive to, like, for example, when a girl tells her parents, how did you meet this guy? Well, there's one of two ways. Well, I was sitting on the toilet taking a shit and he was really hot. I swiped right. Or I was at this park and I was just, reading a book. It was a beautiful day. And he just kind of out of nowhere, he came up to me really smoothly and he just started talking to me, and it was really natural and he was very attractive. Like, you hear how that's such a more just powerful, just great story. It's such a good, I think it's what most women want. And like, I think it's almost like it's such a great story. And I don't think you hear it as much anymore. So knowing that you get to go out there and create that experience and create that story is going to be something that I think makes the journey worth it for sure. So yeah, I'm definitely going to do some more videos talking about cold approach here, because again, it's what I specialize in Mexpat. And it's what I teach guys to do here in Mexico City and online too, but mostly in person. We go out, we go talk to women. This is what I'm really passionate about, helping guys learn and really enjoy being able to teach this now that I've made it through some of those harder steps. So again, guys, if you're watching this, may this give you inspiration that if I can do it, from being 27, virgin, grew up Catholic, one girlfriend in high school, like, hadn't gone on a date in 10 years, to be able to build a proper dating life by just walking around the street. If I can do it, I know you guys can do it, right? And so we are here to help you. And this is what we do here in Mexico City. We help guys start to develop their cold approach and learn the skills of how to go up, start flirting, and take their dating life to the next level. I think one of the biggest things we've been seeing lately is going from platonic, kind of basic conversations, not knowing what to say, being a little nervous, to really feeling confident going into the approach that you're going to be able to create a very strong, flirty man-to-woman vibe. And that's really, I think, when you'll start seeing more results in terms of, you get her number, you're going to get a lot more dates. Girls are going to want to start to see you more. And, whether you're in Mexico or in the United States, like, it doesn't matter. Like, these skills are transferable. And man, yeah, it's just such a cool experience, a super cool journey. And it's one that I'm really excited that I get to be able to help you guys on. So with that, guys, you can schedule a call at mexpatdating.com. Down below, we'll hop on a free call with you and figure out where you are on your dating journey and what we can best do to assist you in taking your dating life to the next level, in particular with cold approach. So with that, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Peace.